Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's September 17, 2020, and this is episode 718. Okay, so it's been a couple of years and coincidentally exactly 100 episodes since I reviewed and created a tutorial to help you to create camera profiles for use in Capture One Pro using the Lumariver Profile Designer software. And with my new EOS R5 sitting around without a profile, I figured I'd make one, and I was pleased to see that a few changes made to the Lumariver software have made the profiles easier to create than ever before. There are a number of ways to create these profiles, and I haven't tried all of them, but the main thing to note here is that I followed the Lumariver manual instructions for making Capture One ICC profiles and did not use the simpler workflow for reproduction. I went through the full steps, and in step 14 I used alternative A to get the Capture One curve for my profile. The instructions from Lumariver are clear enough, but in my humble opinion could be a little bit clearer and better illustrated. So here goes with my version. First, you'll need an X-Rite color checker target. There are other targets that you can use, but I recommend X-Rites as they are what I use. You can use the color checker passport, but for my profile, I used a digital color checker SG that you can see in this first photo for today's post. Note that if you are listening on some devices that support chapter images, you will be able to see these images on a device. Otherwise, go to the blog at mbp.ac/718 and you can follow along there. Excuse the grubby outside air conditioning unit that I placed the target on. I didn't want to spend much time on this, so I didn't cover it up or anything. I exposed the chart in manual mode and ensured that I pulled back slightly from the setting that started the white patches blinking with exposure alerts. So the base image is as bright as I can get it without starting to overexpose, just as I usually shoot my images. For the sake of this process, note that I used the white balance picker tool in Capture One Pro and selected one of the neutral grey cells on the target, and that set the custom white balance of the image to 5757 Kelvin and a tint of -2.8. You can use this profile for a wide range of white balances, but to create it, we need to set the custom white balance in this way. And remember the Kelvin value for later. The next part of the process will make your image look a bit crappy for a while, but this is necessary, so let's work through it. As you can see in this next screenshot, under the base characteristics panel in the Capture One Pro, you need to select no color correction from the effects section of the ICC profile pull down. If you don't see this option, click on the Show All option first. It's also important here to select linear response from the curve pull down below the ICC profile pull down. This is the part that will make your image look flat and much less colorful. So if it still looks okay, go back and check these last few steps. Then right-click the image that you just changed and select Export, then Variants from the shortcut menu that will appear. You'll then see a dialog box to select the settings, which need to be the TIFF format, 16-bit, and under ICC Profile, select Embedded Camera Profile. For the file name, to make the following steps easier, either change the name to linear or append the word linear to the file name, as I have in the following screenshot. After exporting your linear copy of the image, go back to the curve pull-down from the base characteristics panel, and this time select Auto, unless you usually select one of the other options such as Film Standard. I just selected Auto and then exported a second copy of the image, repeating the previous step, but this time appended the words Auto Curve to the file name so that I can easily identify it as we proceed. Next, assuming that you have already installed and licensed your copy of Lumariver Profile Designer, open it and select General Purpose ICC Profile, as you see in the next screenshot. After that, click on the Load Image button under the Target dialog that should already be selected when you start Lumariver. In the image labeled Lumariver Target Options, it says Drop Image on the top button because I have already loaded the image when I captured the screenshot. You'll just need to hit the Load Image button and select the linear TIFF that we exported, the first of the two. Also select the illuminant, which is closest to the white balance that you made a mental note of earlier. My image was 5757 Kelvin, so I chose D55. Next, select your target from the pull-down that says X-Rite Color Checker SG in my screenshot. Again, I've already selected this. After that, select Show Target Grid and align the corners of the grid that will appear with the plus symbols in each corner of your color checker, as you can see in this screenshot. Now select the Tone Curve option in the bottom right of the Lumariver dialog and select Load Base Curve and load the second of the two images that you exported earlier, marked with Auto Curve in my example. Then under the Curve Mode pull-down, select Add to Base Curve and then select Curve Custom and press the Load Custom Curve button and a dialog will open. Leave that dialog open and go back to Capture One Pro and go to the Base Characteristics panel and locate an image that still has your default camera profile selected, not the one that you used for this export because we changed that. In my case, the Canon EOS R5 generic profile was selected. Mouse over the profile that is applied to your images, and you should see a pop-up with the path to the generic Capture One Pro profile that your camera has been using. Go to that folder and locate the profile, then drag the file to the dialog that we left open in Lumariver earlier. This will move the dialog to your Profiles folder and select the file that you just dragged, ready for you to import. Also at this point, note the name of the profile file, or better still, select it and copy the file name to your computer's clipboard for use in a few moments. Once you have your generic profile loaded, you're ready to hit the render button. As you can see in this next screenshot, once rendered, you should see a beautifully full-colored version of your original photograph, and this indicates that the process was successful. In previous versions, following the manual as we just did never gave me a usable profile, and I had to select some other options to get that, but now it works right out of the box, which is great. Go to the ICC Export tab now and type or paste the file name that I asked you to copy to your clipboard a few moments ago. You just need the first part of the file name up to the hyphen, which is Canon EOS R5 in my example. And then you want to add something descriptive after this. If you don't use the same start of the file name as your camera's generic profile, the new profile will not be listed with your generic profile under the base characteristics ICC profile pull-down. Any other file name will cause your profile to be listed under the other section, and that makes it more difficult to locate later. Check your profile and see if it is at least marginally better than the Capture One Pro generic camera profile. The one that I just created is, so I'm going to use it by default for my EOS R5 from now on. To make that happen, right-click the ellipses in the top right corner of the base characteristics panel and select Save as Defaults for Canon EOS R5 or whatever your camera is called. If you do that, from now on, all images that you import into Capture One Pro from the same camera will get this new camera profile assigned. If you prefer to just assign the profile yourself, skip the last step and just select the profile from the pull-down manually when you want to apply it. To apply the new profile to images that were imported before you created this new profile, you just need to select them and then select the new profile. If you made the new profile the default, you can also just select Apply Defaults. Note too that the first part of the profile name used to identify it and group the profile correctly is not included in the pull-down because it is displayed under the camera's profiles. This is why you'll still want to give it a meaningful name after the hyphen. Also, if you want to see your original target photo in full splendor, you'll need to change the linear response curve back to auto or whatever you use, as well as assigning the new camera profile. So that you can see the difference, I've embedded a before-after slide into the blog post. Again, that's at mbp.ac/718, and you can drag the vertical bar back and forth to reveal the Lumariver camera profile. It's pretty obvious which it is, but I've also labeled them just in case. If you're interested in grabbing a copy of Lumariver Profile Designer to create your own profiles, you'll find it at www.lumariver.com. And note that to create profiles for Capture One Pro, as we've done in this tutorial, you will need at least the Pro Edition, and the Repro Edition also works for this. The Basic Edition does not work. That will only create DNG-based camera profiles, but that should be enough if you use Adobe Camera Raw-based camera profiles. Also, if you need a color checker target, you can get both the Color Checker Passport and the Digital Color Checker SG from our friends at B&H Photo. And if you use our affiliate links, which I've embedded in the blog post, it helps to keep the lights on and the content coming, as well as being very much appreciated. Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please share a link with your friends. Subscribe in iTunes or your favorite podcast program to ensure uninterrupted delivery. If you have a moment to rate the podcast or leave us a review in iTunes, that helps to keep us relevant in the huge number of podcasts out there now. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime you take care and have a great week whatever you do. Bye bye.